Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the Red Shadow's favorite game series, the series where I talk about some of my favorite games that I've ever played and experienced in my life. And today we're going back to another PC game, and this one is a really big one for me. I would definitely rank this one, if I were to sit down and try to come up with a top 10 video games of all time for me, this would be in that top 10 somewhere. And the game that we're talking about is actually hovering somewhat above my head right now. And that would be World of Warcraft. That would be World of Warcraft, the original game, the Burning Crusade, the first expansion, Wrath of the Lich King, the second expansion, Cataclysm, the third expansion, one of which I have the big banner above, and the most recent expansion, Mists of Pandaria. This is a display-only keeper box, like a display deal that we had at the store. It's the only expansion for the game that I bought digitally, but I just managed to get one of these from the store. World of Warcraft. I don't even know where to start. There's so much stuff to talk about when it comes to this game. I guarantee you right now, excuse me, that this is probably going to be a 2 to 3 part series, just for me to be able to talk about all the things that I love about this amazing game, and especially all of the conundrum that is me loving a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. If I haven't already established it in the past, then let me do so now. I am a single-player gamer. I love games that let me sit down with my controller at front of my television with a game and controller in hand, playing a game that's meant to be experienced by the one person. Not the kind of game where you play with your buddy sitting next to you, or in this day and age where you get online and you play with people from all around the world. But World of Warcraft, despite being that kind of game, it was something that I almost became immediately attached to the first time I set forth in the world of Azeroth. So as I like to do, I need to start at the beginning. Now, World of Warcraft debuted in, I believe, 2004. Whether or not I was aware of its existence back then, I'm not for sure. I want to believe it was probably 2006, 2007 when I may have actually first heard the words World of Warcraft. I was familiar with the Warcraft series before that. They were not my game because they were strategy-style games, and it's just not my style of gameplay. Well, World of Warcraft took the Warcraft mythology, the universe, the characters, the entire storyline, and put it in a gigantic open world game where you could pretty much play and do the game however you chose. And they did it in an online setting so that you could team up with other people, friends or strangers, whoever you wanted to play with. When I first heard about the game, it was from a coworker of mine named Mike. He's the one that got me into this game. And Mike, if you see this, thank you, because this game means more to me than most people would ever understand. It is up there with some of the rest of the games that you're going to see in this series that have stayed with me ever since the first time I played them. So I thank you for getting me into this game. I thank you for being a little unrelenting about it, like even just in telling me stories about it, even when you weren't saying you should play it. He would detail stories about his adventures in this game that just blew me away. But at the time, I didn't have the greatest computer, and I had just barely gotten into the world of high-speed internet. Most people might be surprised to hear, and I believe it was like 2007 or 2008 when I went to DSL from dial-up. I had absolutely no idea whether or not my puny little Walmart bought computer would power this game, despite it being a couple years old. and whether or not my internet would be able to handle it. And let me tell you, the first year or so I played of the game, it wasn't fun in that regard. But I just kept resisting because I didn't think my computer could handle it. And oh, by the way, you spend all this money to buy all these expansions, and then you have to pay a $15 a month fee. That's a little steep in my eyes. If I gave that game a year, I spent, what is it, $150, $180 plus the cost of all these games here. That's a lot of money to put into a game. So I had myself talked out of it for the longest time simply because I couldn't fathom spending that much money on a game consistently over and over again, when most of the time you spend $60 at the max for a video game and you can play it as much as you want for the rest of your life for that one price. But anyway, enough about all of that. I finally decided to take the plunge after I had started to donate plasma every month, and I had $240 worth of disposable income. $15 a month didn't look so bad then. So I finally entered into the World of Warcraft, and I was swept away into it. I was, like I said before, instantly fell in love with this world. I created a human warrior in the Alliance class, or the Alliance side, the warrior class. I always pick the quote-unquote good guys in these video games. I don't play on the evil side if a game gives me that option. I don't really know why. The Horde, which is the evil side of things in World of Warcraft, it's not like there's anything wrong with it. They have some pretty cool looking races. They have some interesting areas in the game that are unique to them. But I always just end up going with the good side. The human part of it, I don't really think that was anything in particular. The Alliance has a lot of really interesting races that were really cool, but I guess I just wanted to stick with something that I knew. So I went with humans, and I picked the warrior class because, hands down, I will always go with a melee class in those type of games. I don't like healers. I don't like casters. It's not that I hate those things. I just don't prefer to play that way. I want a guy that hits hard. I want a guy who's going to come in with a sword or an axe or something and bludgeon you. As far as like what kind of spec he is, I always go with, in an MMORPG game, what's known as DPS, or damage per second. Just a guy who hits fast and hard, who doesn't get the attention of the bosses or the enemies. That's what the tanks do. And I can just go in there and kind of do my thing while someone else is taking care of keeping the guy occupied, and the healers are over here doing their thing, and the casters and the long-range people are doing their thing. Just let me go up there and hit them with something. So I made my character, and I played. I guess I should mention this was April or May of 2009. Wrath of the Lich King was the current expansion. So I picked my character. I jumped into a free 7-day trial. That was the time period where I fell in love with the game. You could play for 7 days for free. You could level up to level 20. And just kind of experience the world and take part in it for a little while. And I was sold after like a day. So I took my character and I ran around the starter areas, and I died one time, and I didn't know that the mechanic was your character became a ghost and he would float around, and you'd have to go back to your corpse and revive, resurrect, or whatever it is. I forget. Right now, when I'm trying to think of these things, I tend to forget. And I found my character down in Dust Wall. No, that's a different place. Anyway, down where by Booty Bay is the name of this little goblin ran pirate town, and my character walked all the way from near Stormwind City down to there as a ghost, and I just didn't know what in the world was going on. I finally managed to get my character revived again, and I was just mystified by walking around in the spirit world and looking at this pirate bay and the boats and the little goblins, and it was really, like I said, it was really interesting, and I was way over my head, but I was just picking up on the scope of this game. And that's one of the things that really impresses me. I told this story, I think, before, playing the very first Twisted Metal Suburbia map, and then playing the Grand Theft Auto games, Grand Theft Auto 3 and up until 5, and games that give you a gigantic, massive open world to explore, although in World of Warcraft there's limitations. Due to your level, you can go into an area, say a level 5, you go to an area that's meant for level 50s, the enemies come from far away and just one hit you and you're dead. But the idea that you could explore this massive world, started out with these 2 big continents, then another continent, and another one that's like on another planet, it just baffled my mind. It's definitely up there with one of the biggest game worlds that you can experience in video games. And I was just eating it up. I could wander around that world for hours and hours at a time and not do a single thing and feel like this is amazing. I'm not wasting my time in the least bit if I haven't killed something, if I haven't earned something, if I haven't went up a level or upgraded something. I can just become immersed in the world that they presented. As unrealistic as the world is, when you compare like Grand Theft Auto 5's world, a city and farmlands and mountains and the beaches and rivers and stuff, it all works well together. In World of Warcraft, the worlds, or the zones as they call them, tend to go from red mountains, lava, and this and that, and then you go up over a ridge and all of a sudden you're in a lush jungle. And then you travel through that land and you go up through another path and all of a sudden you're on a snowy mountainside. You go over the other side of that and all of a sudden you're on like a foggy beach. You know, it's not realistic in that, but every zone has its own personality. And if you can just suspend your disbelief for a moment and focus on where you're at and enjoy the area that you're at, you'll get such an amazing experience in each little land, and all the little quests that you get from the NPCs there, and the things that you'll do for those NPCs, the people that you'll meet just in the middle of nowhere, just a random outpost. There'll be somebody from a certain race, and you'll go and do some things for them. It's just amazing. For me, that was such a huge thing about the game, was the exploration. Now, there are other things that you can do in World of Warcraft, and I'm going to touch on those in the next video here in just a moment. I'm going to wrap this one up now while I have a good transition. But in the next video, I'd like to talk about some of the other things that you can do and where those things fit in for a guy like me who doesn't really like the social multiplayer aspect of a game like this. So that'll be in part 2, coming up right after this one. Thanks for watching, and stick around if you want to hear some more thoughts about World of Warcraft, one of my favorite games.